Hi, thanks very much for coming to our seminar. Just to introduce ourselves, I'm Andrew Heighway, CEO for Heighway Pinball, and this is Roman Fontaine, who is our technical director. So first of all, just like to thank you all very much for coming along to our seminar. Hopefully we'll have a lot of stuff we can share with you about where we've been going over the last couple of months and where we're going to be going from here. For refreshments, we decided to stay sort of on theme with full throttle drinks here. So I actually, funny enough, when I was at Expo a couple of years ago, I bought one of these with the view of opening it when the first games came off the production line. But as we were running a little bit late, I think it's way out of date now. So I think that's not going to be moved from my fridge. One other apology in advance. One thing that we like to do at our seminars is to give some giveaways across the people, like flyers, t-shirts, things like that. To be perfectly frank with you, we were so rushed getting the games out in time and getting ourselves over here in time that it was an oversight. And when we left, I remembered on the plane thinking, oh my God, we haven't bought any t-shirts or anything. So I apologise in advance, but if any of you guys are going to be coming, let's say, to Expo in Chicago in October, we'll make up for it there. So I'd like to get started. There's a mixture of things that we're going to show you today, some still photographs, some videos. I'm going to be talking about some stuff. Roman is going to be talking about some technical stuff. And we'll have a few announcements to make along the way. And then at the end of it, we'd be happy to take any questions that any of you may have. Okay, there we go. So first of all, we'd like to say thanks very much to everybody at Pintastic New England for having us here. A special thanks to both Gabe and Derek for inviting us along to this. We were very excited to come along. And we've had some great conversations with a lot of people over the course of the last couple of days. So from all of us at Heighway Pinball, we'd just like to say thank you very much for having us. So our first game, full throttle. Am I talking too close into the microphone here? Is this better from... Is that better like this?
That's the microphone in front of it, press the button in the base.
No, he's not on that one. He's on the...
I know he's not on that one, but turn it on anyway.
Oh, I see.
That's it. Thanks.
Is that better now?
That'll help.
Okay, great. Here's an update video, which you guys have seen first before it goes on YouTube. It's happened with everything was perfect, of course, in testing, and now it's connected up here. I can't move on. Actually, there we go. Right, okay. I've worked out how to do it now. Sorry for the technical problems there. So just to show you a few things going on around our factory at the moment, what you see here lined up is our 4 original prototypes. And you can see there's different sort of cabinet variations there. There's ones we've tested for limited edition versions of cabinets, which are generally red gloss trim with black powder coat, or black gloss trim with red powder coat. So there's 2 different versions of the LE trim. The trims that you see here on the games that we have here are a sort of a matte black, a more rugged trim, if you like, with a sort of a metal powder coated or metal finish for all of the metalwork. What we have here is a picture of our old factory. This was 14,000 square feet, and this is the only item we actually manufactured in here was the Bacardi games that we did. Who here remembers or has heard about the Baffleball, the Bacardi Baffleball games that we did? I'll come on to a little bit about this later on. We made 251 games within 4.5 months, when Bacardi's own procurement departments were quoting over 9 months to go and get this done. But stupidly, we love a challenge, and we took it on, and we designed, built and delivered 251 games globally within only 4.5 months. This was at this factory, and that was 14,000 square foot. Around the time of Expo in Chicago last year, we moved to a much bigger factory, and what you see here, which admittedly it could do with a coat of paint on the outside, but if you look beyond that, this is a 42,000 square foot facility. Now, we're only using half of that at the moment, but we learned very quickly, and Roman and I were in complete agreement, that during the Bacardi Baffleball production, we were going to run out of space very, very quickly. And the thing is, when you're dealing with pinball machines, which are a lot bigger and a lot more complicated, and you need so many more parts to store, there's no way that we would have been able to have proper pinball production in that whole facility. So we're glad that we made the changeover and the move when we did, and we're well prepped up to be able to do large runs of production games in the future. So one of the things I want to discuss with you now is a sort of a direction that I decided the business should go in, because we found out a lot over the last couple of months, and we've only been building 20 games over the last sort of 6-7 weeks, because the first game to build is always by far the hardest game, because you have to deal with suppliers, you have to deal with quality control issues. There's a whole host of problems that you get when you get involved with manufacturing. And the one thing that we decided was that quality control is so intricate to a pinball machine, because especially when you've got collectors who are spending larger amounts of money to get their sort of dream games, you can't have blemishes, you can't have playfields that are the way that they should be. And quality control, when you're dealing with people who let's face it, are not companies or suppliers that aren't doing pinball machines, and I can quite categorically state that because we're the first and only ever UK manufacturer of pinball machines. There's nobody who does playfields, there's nobody who does metal board guides. We've got to educate them what we want and then hope that they're going to go give us the right quality product. And we have had issues with quality control with parts coming in, just quite simply weren't right. So this is one of the reasons why we've had these long delays to get to where we are now. But the good thing is once you've nailed all that down and you've got the right quality and you've got the right suppliers lined up, then doing further runs of games becomes a much easier process. But nevertheless, with something like playfields, it's such a specialised thing that we decided we were going to do these in-house. And I'll show you some bits of equipment in a minute. But these first pieces of equipment you see, which are actually two of our most recent pieces, these are injection moulding machines. This will allow us to make things like flipper bats, the plastic insert lenses that you see on the playfields, flipper bushings, what the flipper bats go through, or any sort of plastic parts that you see on the playfield, which are injection moulded, we will be able to do those. So we're going to be working with companies both in China and the States to make the moulds, which will allow us to make these parts. Now, it is quite a big investment at the very beginning, because it costs like thousands of dollars just to make a tool to be able to make these things. But once you've got to that point, then you're talking literally cents or pennies in order to be able to produce these things in the future. So it's a very worthwhile investment. And we haven't used these yet. They're not actually commissioned these machines yet, but over the coming weeks and months, we'll be bringing these online, bringing people in to operate them and starting to make our own parts. What you see here is one of our pride and joys. This was made in 1989, but this was top of the range back in 1989. It's a Japanese CNC machine. And these things just go on forever and ever. They're real high quality pieces of equipment. What this allows us to do is to cut out all of our playfields and also to be able to cut out all our plastics. So the individual plastics in the sets, the plastic panels like the back glass panels, the side art panels, we can do all of that in-house ourselves. Now I'm going to show you a small video here, it's a couple of minutes, because I thought you might find it a bit interesting, because you think, well, you look at something like that, and how much would you say, anyone wants to guess maybe how much one of these things weighs? Just a wild shot in the dark guess. Anybody got a thought?
Oh, 4 tons.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's a 4-ton machine. And when you're dealing with pump trucks that maybe can lift up 500 kilos, and you get this thing through the door, it's like, well, wow, you've got to have the right equipment to do it. So But you might have, might think to yourselves, how would they get something like that in the factory? So we did a short video showing how this thing arrived and how it was transported into the factory. So I'm just going to show this to you now. No music on this one. We were quite thankful there was no rain that day. So yeah, it's a large piece of equipment that gets high-ab down onto the ground, and they have these tiny little rollers. You think, how on earth are these things going to hold 4 tons? But they do. You put it on the end, and then you forklift jack it up the other end, and you just wheel it into position, and there you go. So what we have here now, which I'm going to show you, is our third and most recent piece of equipment, which really we consider to be the star of our show at the moment. I'm going to ask a question in a minute, and John Greywich at the back there is precluded from answering this question because he will know the answer to it. So what we have here is a flatbed UV printer. What this means is that it's the best way today which you can digitally print onto a playfield. So normally playfields in the past have been screen printed, but screen printing is very restrictive from a number of colours that you can use. By using UV and digital printing, you can get much better depth of colours, much vaster array of colours, which really allows you to do some great things with playfield art, and also with plastics too. So what you see here again is the installation. No videos for you on this occasion, but just to show you, this was it arriving at the factory, sort of being wheeled into position. There it is in its final position now. And so what you see here now is a blank full throttle playfield. And these are the playfields there being printed on a flatbed printer. This was actually done at Canon's head office, but it's pretty much exactly the same printer. But this is quite a substantial investment. So is there anybody who'd like to guess how much a brand new printer like this would cost? We can work in dollars, that's fine.
What size bed?
I'm sorry?
What size bed?
It's 8 by 4, so 8 foot by 4. So, gentleman there?
4 tons.
This actually is less than a ton, I believe, from what I understand, but yeah, it's well less than a ton. And it comes in sections as well, so it's much easier, although we did have to completely take the door frame off in order to get it in, but that's another story. But no, how much does people think this would actually cost? How much in dollars do you think a brand new machine costs?
30,000?
30,000, okay. Higher than 30,000?
100,000.
Higher than 100,000? Way lower than $1 million. It's like an auction, this, isn't it?
250.
250, no, lower than 250.
25.
Keep going lower.
150.
You got it, yes. $150,000. So it's a substantial investment. The one that we've got is actually a used one. We haven't paid quite that much, but it's still, full factory refurbished. And the thing is, as long as you keep these things maintained, they'll just go on for years. But we kind of thought to ourselves as well, by the time we're getting further on in the year, especially when we get to our second game, and we need to vastly increase capacity, this allows us to not only increase capacity to where we need it to be to keep up with demand, but also, most importantly, to keep a close eye on quality too. Because you get it back from other printers and you have just the slightest wipe of a head on the top, and that's it, the playfield has to be scrapped or wiped out again.
Just out of curiosity, how fast can you print a playfield on one of these?
That's also a good question. It's normally about 20 minutes per playfield. That's what we worked out at. That was with a double hit of ink. We just did it with a single hit of ink. Yeah. If you did it with a single hit of ink, it would probably be about 12 minutes, 12, 14 minutes. But we put, at the moment, we're using a double run of white ink. So it's CMYK and 2 runs of white. Yeah, exactly. By being an 8x4 printer means that we can actually print 4 at a time. So we come to full throttle. I'm sure maybe most of you have seen the promo video, the trailer for it. It's a short one, but we'll show it to you again anyway.
To be the best takes skill, commitment, determination. To be the best, you must be prepared to go full throttle.
You think you can beat me? Don't make me laugh.
Francisco's always getting in at the end, always has something to say. So here's some pictures of Full Throttle. I'm sure many of you have seen it in the hall anyway. And one thing that, at Heighway Pinball, we do follow what people say to us and we do react to it. Because, especially the pinball community, I mean, we're all pinball purists at heart. I've been a pinball fan for as long as I can remember. I've been playing pinball since I was very young. Roman as well. And we're all very passionate about trying to create a product here that everybody would want to play, a product that could make pinball mainstream again. And this is why we've spent such a long time, sort of almost 4 years, in fact, at this point now, building a new platform from the ground up, which can do all the things that we believe the market needs from a pinball machine in the modern era. And what part of this process is getting feedback from people. And this is one of the reasons why I love coming to shows like this, because you will never find a place where a pinball will be put under so much scrutiny, so much pressure as at a pinball show, because it's constant rotation. And even if you have busy sites, you might have half a dozen people playing it one after the other, and then it does nothing for half an hour until the next person comes up and plays. At a pinball show, if you want to test the reliability of a game, then it's a great place to do that. And getting the feedback and opinions is also great. And in some of the early shows that we did, and one in particular, which was the EAG trade show in London at the start of the year, we got to talk to a lot of operators, and they were very interested in that product. But one thing a lot of them said to us is that you're missing something on your back box. When it's in a pub environment or an arcade environment, okay, yes, it's lit, the back box, but you've got actually nothing there to draw people in. And one of the things a back box display does, with all of its animations, is that it creates some interest with the player. And also, people who are watching from around can actually see what scores you're doing without having to peer down on the playfield surface. And the reasoning behind us doing the playfield screen in the first place was because myself as a player, my guys as players as well, all your attention is down in the flipper areas where it should be, trying to keep the balls in play. And there's so many great animations on a pinball machine which are missed because you're not looking up, you're looking obviously down on the playfield. So that's the reason why we put the playfield where it is. the screen where it is on the playfield. But we've listened to what people have told us and operators, and we now offer this as an optional extra to any of our customers on any of our versions of games. Now at the moment, it's a mirror image screen, so we're using exactly the same screen that we're using in the playfield. It's the same size, it's the same chassis, but we've modified the back box, so even if someone buys a screen without the playfield screen, without the back box screen, they can retrospectively fit it as well. So we've priced this. We tried to price this competitively, which is as a factory fit option, it's $350, and as a retrofit, it's $400. And the only reason for the change is that we have two back box screen variants. One has the cutout window, if you like, in it, so you can see the screen through it. If somebody buys one without that screen, then that plastic panel has to be changed retrospectively as well. Hence why there's a difference in the price. But the feedback that we've got so far, from the last couple of days and from forums as well, is that people really love having that addition there, because it's funny. One thing that when we were at Expo in Chicago last year, one thing everybody was saying was they were always looking up. They played their ball, they were looking up, and there's no screen there, and they're looking back down again. Now, I think that can be an educational process. It's just re-educating ourselves that the screen is in a different place. I mean, after all, you look at like WMS's Circus Voltaire, and you had to look halfway in between in order to see the screen before, and nobody really was worried about that. So, but it at least gives another option there, and I think particularly for operating games, it's a feature which a lot of operators, I believe, are going to want to get involved with. Just to show you this here, this just shows a bit more information about our packaging, how we package our games. Because we don't have a traditional back box which swings down and you attach to the playfield, with ours it's a very easy system where you literally just slot the back box in and you do up, I believe it's 3 screws and 2 wing nuts, and so it's a less than a minute job. But it means that we have a different way to have to try to package this. So the way that we do it is we have the game cabinet on its back, protected with foam inserts at the bottom, and then we have these sort of, I suppose, wedge shape, if you like, cardboard, which then the back box sits on next to it, and then we have a box with the legs and keys and everything else on top, and the whole thing has a box over the top in it that gets strapped onto a pallet and shipped out. And you can see in the bottom right hand corner there, that's a mock-up of a container, and we can fit 24 games into a 20-foot container. Now this is, what we see here now is one of the prototypes in the foreground, but after that are games which are nearly ready to come off the line. In particular, with these couple of photos here, is we had ITV. We have 2 major broadcasters in the UK. We have the BBC, which I'm sure everybody has heard of, and we have ITV, who's always been the second one. And ITV News were down doing a piece for us literally days before we were boxing up the games that you've been playing here this weekend. Here we go, we see the camera crew setting up there. So what you see now is our main sort of production area. As you can see, cabinets are on the right-hand side, new cabinets on skids, I think as you guys call them, or pallets as we call them, on the left-hand side, and cabinets down the left there as well too. In the middle there is a stack of back boxes. So obviously when you're manufacturing pinball machines, one of the biggest things is parts, and you're constantly getting parts in all the time, and that in itself is a logistical challenge. When you've got thousands of parts arriving on a weekly basis, someone has to check them coming in, check the quality, check the number of them, stock them accordingly, it's a huge task. It's a mammoth task, the logistics of a pinball company. Nikki, by the way, here on the right has become quite a celebrity in our YouTube videos, so we're told. So here we see when our cabinets arrive to us, the cabinets are already pre-made. This is just the shells of them, and then we build everything onto them internally and on the outside as well. Stacks of back boxes. These are the glass magazines. This is something that we haven't got quite right yet. We've had a lot of development going into this. When we first had ones at the EAG show at the start of this year, they had quite pointy corners on the front, and it really wasn't comfortable for the player when they're trying to use the flipper buttons. So then this is 2 variants further on down the line, and they're nice and rounded on the front now, but it's a horrendously expensive piece of equipment to manufacture. But one of the great things about this system is, you guys over here in the USA have got loads of space, and so space isn't nearly so much of a problem as it is for us guys over in UK, where people are living in matchboxes, so they have enough space. And I don't know what it is about the UK, but if you can ever find space to have machines, one wall and the other wall facing each other, there's never enough space in the middle to be able to take the glass off. It's a real pain. So with our system here, the whole magazine just lifts off the top there, so it negates the need to have the space to be able to take the glass out. What you see here is a playfield rack, so all the playfields during the process get stored in racks like this. And again, one of the reasons why we want to do our own playfields is because when you're doing things like treating it with lacquer, for example, you tell people, suppliers, put them flat and keep them flat, but no, inevitably they have them up against the wall and then they bow and you have to straighten them out. It's no end of problems with playfields. By having flat racks like this, it allows you to be able to keep a control of your product much better. So more images of production. Here is a pile of, just showing you a few things of parts. I mean, I could spend the next couple of hours here showing you piles of parts, but I don't think really you'll be that interested in it. But I'll show you a few piles of parts. This one in particular is it's a pile of magazines for the screens. So these again are very tricky to go and manufacture because you're using very light steel. It's going to be bent into awkward angles. But so here's a pile of screen magazines, just bags of parts. No particular interest there. Then we have many wires. One of the things about our games is that we really don't have wiring looms anymore, and this is one of the things that we set out to achieve with our games, because having serviced many games ourselves before, wiring is a huge problem. Whether you get snags in the wires, you get dry solder joints, all kinds of things can happen. You get wires shorting out against each other. And everybody knows that famously it's half a mile of wiring traditionally in a pinball machine. It's about 800 metres. Well, we've got ours down to approximately 50 metres of wiring now. So it's a fraction of the amount of wiring in a pinball machine, which means that there should be a lot less to go wrong with them. And just lots of pictures of wires. So what we have here now is when we were putting games together. These are the two games that you've been playing the last couple of days. So this is us just prepping up these games, testing them, unboxing them before they go off. So there's Roman working on some of the electronics there. And what you see inside the cabinet, that's our power board there in the middle, with LEDs to show all of the voltages and making sure, so you can see at a glance if there's anything untoward. The top part of the playfield, so hopefully you can see from this picture just how little wiring there actually is on our game. With one of the finished games. So this is us packaging it up, so you can see the cardboard wedges on the right hand side which house the back box area, and you can see the foam that the whole thing is sitting on, and it sits on a pallet. And little things that maybe you wouldn't know is, you have to have special pallets to ship overseas. They have to be heat treated and chemically treated, so by the time they arrive here they're not filled with wood mites and other diseases. So you have to be very specialist even about the pallets and skids that you're using. So here are our finished games. So these are the games that came here. And it's just a small team photo. And finally, going on to the TNT van. And they actually came back, nothing how we sent them. Boxes were torn, straps were broken, the whole things were rocking. So we were quite impressed when they were pretty much intact by the time we unpacked them. So what I'd like to do now for the next 5 to 10 minutes is we're going to have like a sort of a technical section in the middle now. Roman's just going to discuss a few things about the technical aspects of our game. Then after that, I'm going to talk to you about some other things going on in our company, upcoming games, things like that. So I'll hand you over to Roman.
Hi everyone. So for those who don't know me, my name is Romain. I'm French originally. I moved to Wales about 2.5 years ago to work for Heighway Pinball. First time I met Andrew Heighway was in the show in France when he came. That was about 3 years ago. So I was not particularly looking to work for pinball machines, but as I just previously quit my job, I was just throwing a lot of ideas around in my mind, and we had a very interesting conversation, you and me, and I was very interested by a newcomer in pinball machines, because the only thing I knew back then was just the Williams and the oldies from the 80s and 90s, as I used to collect pinball machines before. And I was very interested in the new technology and the innovation that we just discussed together without even thinking about working for Heighway Pinball at the beginning. And then, well, just a few weeks or a month later, well, we came back together, came back to you, and I've asked Andrew Heighway if it just would happen for him to be looking for anyone to do technical stuff. And yeah, well, basically after a couple of Skype calls later, the answer was, when did you start? And I just answered, well, would next Monday do? So yeah, it has been very interesting to move in very short notice to Wales, and then start working from, well, very early prototypes. Let's call it prototypes version -1. That was the very first one. So, well, restarting from that very first prototype, which has been already made for about a year before you arrived, well, we decided, Andrew and myself, to resettle everything down and rework from the ground up to build a complete system that would not only allow us to make full throttle now, but would also support next tables and next pinball and next innovations in the future. So it was really a long-term thinking on how to develop this new platform. The first thing that we always had in mind in Heighway Pinball was to have a modular system. So the game swap is something that we believe is very important in what we're doing. Being able to swap a game in 5 to 10 minutes is just not a marketing thing. Well, actually, we can swap a game in less than 5 minutes. It is so easy that the game in itself, well, pinball machines, they are comprised of electronics and software, and of course the playfield. Well, a pinball, you only need the playfield in the end. So just changing the playfield in itself, that's only 3 connectors. They will be always the same. They are scalable, not like Pinball 2000, and it is actually very easy. So a new game upgrade would be comprised of a complete playfield, fully populated, the art panel, the 2 sides and the back glass, and USB stick with a game code. So the only thing you have to do is disconnect the playfield, drop the playfield from the cabinet, change the 2-side art on the cabinet, change the back glass, and put the new USB stick with the new code, and you just switch on the machine and the machine will be on and ready. Now, about the electronics. So when I started at Heighway Pinball, I started as electronics engineer, and my first task was to develop the so-called driver board on how to control all the hardware stuff on the playfield in the machine from the computer platform. So after about a year of development, it really took a year, I come up with this board which is doing all the magic in the machine. So that board is communicating with USB communication to the main computer in the machine. It is a very small board for those who have seen the inside of the machine. It's quite small compared to what driver boards used to be. It is modular and scalable because the whole system is not based on one unique board located in the back box. The complete system is based on small boards which are distributed under the machine. So on full throttle we have one board in the cabinet that handles all the cabinet hardware, the flipper buttons, the coin mechanism, the knocker, all of that. And then under the playfield, we have 3 more boards which are handling all the solenoids, the switches, and all the RGB LEDs. The board is fully featured with a self-diagnostic system. If anything may happen to go wrong, the board will help the operator or the user try to repair the machine, will tell what actually got wrong. And the embedded securities on the board will make sure that if anything goes wrong, it doesn't get wronger. That the board will automatically isolate itself, isolate solenoids just in case there is short circuit somewhere or anything. So all of that is completely protected. And that board is compatible with all the new technologies. Now we are using RGB LEDs, but well, God knows what will just happen in a year time. So that board has communication protocols that allow us to have a lot more support than what we actually do in Full Throttle. We can have support for intelligent motors, servo motors, all of that have already been used in the games, but also things that have never been used in the games before. As Andrew said, we don't have that big, heavy wiring harness anymore. Everything is connected from the I/O board to where it needs to be connected. So because it is a distributed architecture, each I/O board is actually handling its own area. There is no cross-communication from one side of the playfield to another. Everything is centralized on the I/O board. All the informations are then communicated through the USB cable communication to the main CPU, and the CPU sends the information back to the other area. The best example is the flipper buttons. When you press a flipper button, that sends a signal to the I/O board in the cabinet, which communicates that through USB to the main CPU, and the information comes back by USB on the playfield, on the I/O board at the bottom of the playfield, which then triggers the transistors to fire the flipper buttons. There is no direct wire from the flipper button to the flipper solenoid. We only have 2 voltages. For those who are very passionate about WMS and their 15 different voltages, you'll be very disappointed with us. We only have 2 voltages in the machine. That's all we need. We have 12 volt and 70 volt. 12 volt is for all the control command, the electronics, and then the 70 volt. Each I/O board handles their own voltage converters to power the LEDs, to power the switches. Everything is embedded on the I/O board. So actually the wires which carries the 5 volt or the 3 volt are actually very, very short. That's why all the wiring has been brought down by having that. So 800 meters down to maybe about 60 meters at the moment. All the playfield PCBs, so we have big PCBs under the playfield, the big black PCBs, are actually interconnecting all the LEDs, the inductive switches. That's another innovation from Heighway Pinball, that we don't have the wire switch going through the playfield with a slot. They are inductive switches. We don't have the hole in the playfield anymore, and they are self-calibrating switches. So when the ball rolls over the switch, modify the magnetic field around the switch, and the switch detects the ball moving like this. And of course, the PCBs also interconnect the solenoids on the playfield. So all of that to say that those PCBs are custom to one machine. So Full Throttle has a set of PCBs which are Full Throttle custom. Now about reliability, you will tell me, well, if anything goes wrong on those PCBs, well, what do I do? But actually those PCBs, it's very unlikely that anything could go wrong on those PCBs, because there is nothing on those PCBs. They are interconnection PCBs. And the reason of doing that is that we don't have LEDs directly soldered on the PCBs themselves. We don't have components soldered on the PCBs themselves. Everything has small connectors. So if one LED may happen to go wrong, well, you just drop the PCB, you unplug the LED, you plug a new one, you put the PCB back. And as I said, at the back of the playfield, we only have 3 connectors, and we will ever probably have only 3 connectors. Can't see how we may need more, but power supply, the USB for the communication, and the HDMI for the screen. So to show us some of the very small board that we are using in the machine, so we have on the left the stand-up target board. That's the one for those who have played Full Throttle. On the targets on the side of the playfield, which are multicolored targets, and you have to spell Octane to start the high octane mode. So those targets have a very small LED at the top, which is an RGB LED, exactly the same as we use everywhere in the game. And just under it, just a small micro switch. So nothing to adjust about those targets, leaf switches to adjust or anything. The target, when the ball presses the target, just clicks the micro switch and sends a signal to the computer. At the bottom, on the bottom left, you have an inductive switch with a small coil on it. So that generates a magnetic field above the switch. So when the ball rolls in this magnetic field, it changes the frequency of the magnetic field, and then we detect a ball rolling like that. So the ball can be close to the switch from about 2 to actually 8 millimeters. We will be able to detect the ball, and we can actually detect ball very, very fast. And on the right, you have the jet bumper and the flasher LED boards. So they are very small boards which are put in the pop bumper, for example, for the top one. So in each pop bumper, we have 5 independent LEDs. So we can do RGB animation to the pop bumper. If you play full throttle, you will see that we have rotation of light effects in the pop bumpers themselves when you start the bonus multiplier, the score multiplier mode. And for the flasher, we have 4 LEDs, so we can also mix and do different kind of animation within a single flasher itself. And well, that's it for my side. Thank you.
So just to follow on a little bit from what Roman was saying there, we believe that there's so much more that can be done with pinball lighting, and we made a decision to make sure that all aspects of our lighting were RGB, so you can change all aspects of the playfield colouring. Before in the past, with pinball games, you had to distinguish between there being general illumination lighting, CPU-controlled lighting, flasher lighting, but now everything really is together. It's just different types of lighting all doing the same thing. They're all individually addressable. And this is something we're even carrying through onto the back box as well, whereas at the moment, if you see, it's just lit from behind. We could have made it brighter, but it's a fine line between having a back box too bright so it reflects off the playfield glass and not bright enough. It probably could do with being a little bit brighter, in fairness, at the moment. But we shipped the games out on the Friday, and we got a load of addressable pixels for the back box on the Monday. So we were unfortunately a weekend too late from having them on these games. But what they will be is there'll be 50 individually addressable pixels in the back box there, where you can have effects and basically flash and light up different areas of the back glass, which of course from a design perspective gives game designers many more ways, if you like, to communicate what's going on with the back box. Other aspects too, just one other technical point I want to follow up on, is that one question we're asked a lot is, well, okay, you guys have got all of this system here, but what goes and happens if things start to go wrong? You know, are we going to be left out there in the dark? We're very, very serious about the USA market. In fact, we believe the USA market is our biggest market. There's so many passionate collectors in this country, but there's also so many players out there too. You know, you've really got a resurgence over here with the barcade, and pinball is coming back as a coin-op activity here. Whereas Europe, for example, is still very much what we would consider to be a dormant market, as in there's very little going on with operatable games. I mean, you go into arcades near us in Wales, and we've spoken about this a number of times, and there's one arcade there, which is Seaside Arcade, really, really busy, and there's only 2 pinball machines there next to each other. There's like an Adams Family and a Dirty Harry. And I saw these things for the first 2 years ago, and Dirty Harry had a stuck-up flipper, and there was no GI working, and 2 years later it's still in exactly the same condition. We're going to wonder, why isn't he playing pinball? Well, it's because they're not working. What few ones that are on site are not working. So it's quite a desperate situation in the UK, and also in other areas of Europe too. But we're starting to catch up. There's a couple of barcades starting to open up around the country in the UK now, and I think it's the same in other European markets too. So, one of the reasons we developed the product that we did was to make it attractive as a piece of coin-operated equipment. We're very passionate. Our mission statement as a company is to make pinball mainstream again. And the reason why we did it, and this is not to say anything bad about our competitors, we just didn't feel that there was the right product in the marketplace to be relevant for a new generation of player. And so we started, as Roman said, from the ground up, because we wanted to have a system to be as expandable as our imagination was. And that might sound like a bold claim, but it's exactly true, which is why we're looking at many things like online payment systems whereby you create player profiles and you go up and hold your smartphone up to it, and with near-field communications, the game will recognise you, and you play your game, and your high scores get uploaded, and you're shown on Facebook that Jimmy's been playing the full throttle at the Dog and Gun in wherever, and your friends get to see it and think, wow, I want to go and beat his score. And social media connectivity is a really important part, I believe, of the future of pinball, and getting people to start talking about pinball, wanting to compete with other people, really getting the social element going. And our platform allows us to do whatever we want to do. And so, we're very excited about what the future holds. But you guys, just to go back to my original point, are really sort of leading the way, I believe, in the resurgence of pinball. And we really recognise that, and we've got plans for the US market. I announced this back in October last year at Expo. We're going to have a division over here in the short to medium future, where we're almost certainly going to be building cabinets over here for North, South America and Canada, and also having distribution points here too. But we have, and this goes back to just the point I wanted to make about the serviceability of our games, is that we've designed these to be modular by nature. It's not just the swappability of the games, it's the fact that you can change a flipper mechanism, you can drop it out with just a screwdriver and unplugging connector, you can drop out that flipper mechanism or that pop bump or that slingshot in a matter of seconds. You need to have no technical experience. You can pop it in the post to one of our distributors if it's outside of the USA. We're going to be working very closely with John Greatwich at the back there. He's going to be helping us very much and our customers off on the technical side of things as well. And almost certainly John will have some spares in stock too. So if spares can't be shipped overnight from John, they can be shipped overnight or within 2 days from the UK. But we're also in the near future going to have a stockpile of spare parts in the USA too, because we're going to be having sort of warehousing of our games over here, because we're going to be shipping in containers over here and then distributing from here too. We have a number of distribution partners we're working with too. So, and the final point really I'll make is that some of our parts, even though we're making our own flipper mechanisms, for example, they do use some standard linkages, for example, and that we're using Imperial screws and fixings as well. So anybody who's technically minded, if they want to take apart one of our flipper mechanisms and rebuild it with other parts, you can do that on the whole. So from a servicing point of view, we'd like to emphasise we don't want anybody to be worried about that. We're going to have, one of the avenues that we've been speaking about this in the last couple of days and we're going to be building on is tech videos, tech support videos, whereby if you want to know how to change the game, you want to know how to take out a flipper mechanism, okay, it might be obvious to some people, to other people, it's not so obvious, but even though it's easy, we need to maybe show how to go and do it. So we're going to be building this up over time, so it will be the easiest thing in the world to go onto our website, go onto our tech support, and see how to do these things. And anybody, if you ever want us, we're at the end of the phone, we're on the other end of the internet, and we're there to help. So I want to give you a few updates of other things that are going on in our company before we start taking questions. Of course, I'm sure most people here know who the attractive gentleman is in the photo here. It is Barry. He's industry legend. The guy, he was always one of my favourite designers. I've got, I think 5 or 6 Barry pins in my own collection. And when Barry was a guest of mine at my show, the UK Pinball Party, last year, we spoke about the possibility of making games together. And Barry's had his health problems and has had cancer scares and had treatments. And but Barry's a fighter, but he's a pinball enthusiast, right to the core. And you only have to look at his history in pinball. The guy almost single-handedly, saved the industry with Space Shuttle, for example. And some of his innovative games, he was really prepared to push the boundaries. And the other thing as well is the man is an animal when it comes to designing pinball machines. He was known, he had a reputation as being, the quickest draw at WMS. He was the guy that if a pinball machine needed to be finished off quickly, people went to Barry. If you needed a game designed quickly, you went to Barry, because Barry just got the job done. And he's done the same for us as well. Barry is not involved in Full Throttle or Alien Pinball, but Barry is the designer of both games 3 and 4. They're both very strong licensed games. And he's got it in such a short period of time to such a point now where Game 3 is about to be built and Game 4 is only about 3 weeks away from being built as well as a whitewood prototype. But Game 3, we already have a full rule set for it. We have an artwork package in with the licensor waiting approval at the moment. Well, I say waiting approval, they've just come back and just asked us for a few tweaks here and there. But it's, Game 3 is coming on very, very quickly. And this is the thing, where a lot of people sort of ask me, oh great, you're talking about games 2, 3 and 4, and where was game 1? And okay, we've only just started manufacturing game 1. We're the first to admit that it has been a long, hard road to get here. Manufacturing is a whole new beast altogether. But we've got there, we're manufacturing games now, we're shipping games, we're about to start our second run of games. We started off with 20 games, which will be in completion in about 2 weeks' time from now. They're almost all finished now already. We start 44 games straight after that, and we start scaling up from there. And the challenge, our biggest challenge right now, is to scale up from a company that's making 20 games in a month to 44 games in a month, which is our next step, up to hundreds of games, 300-400 games, maybe even 500 games a month by the time we're in alien production later on in the year. But we're up to the challenge. But here we are, we have these other games coming up behind, and you have to do that because to have an interchangeable system like what we have now, we have to keep feeding games, because the idea is, especially from a coin-op point of view, is when that game starts taking less money, you ideally want to rotate the games. And in the past, you had to take the games down, fold the back box down, take the legs off, and move a 120 kilo piece of furniture somewhere else. Whereas now, you could just drive it in your car, and the upgrade, put it in there, 5 minutes, you've got a brand new game, and you're on to your next site. But for that system to work, you've got to have a steady supply of games, which is why we have one game that is finished. We have 3 other games in development currently, and we're already in negotiations now for more licenses and different games for 2016, mid-2016 onwards. So I'm sure most of you know, when we go back to the Bacardi game that we did, and I was speaking about earlier on, one of the announcements that we have to make, well not have to make, that we are going to make, is that we've been asked many times, oh, when can I go and buy one of these things? It's great, it's something different, it's sort of old school, this is based on a 1930s baffleball game. And so we had a lot of inquiries about that, and so we got back in contact with Bacardi afterwards, and we said, look, there's a desire for it there. What if we do a small run of games and we just do something specifically for the public? And Bacardi were very interested in it, so we sort of explored the possibility. Here you can see the illuminated playfield. That was a massive task in itself. It might look fairly simple and straightforward. Does anybody want to hear very briefly about this aspect here, about lighting and the challenges there, or should I move on? Okay. I'll tell you in a nutshell then very quickly what it was. In order to, these are vacuum formed playfields, and you see the Bacardi artwork on there, and the worst thing is there's circles on there. And we spoke about digital printing earlier on. You can't do that with vacuum forming here. What you have to do is go back to old school screen printing, because the higher temperatures involved in vacuum forming mean that if you digitally printed, it would melt the ink off there. So you have to go back to screen printing, which means it's trial and error to get it done, because what you have to do is you have to use a process called distorted art printing, which means that you have this flat piece of plastic, and when you create a tool to begin with, in the same way that we would do with pinball ramps, you make it out of a solid block of aluminium. This thing takes about a week or 2 to get cut out. It really is a big heavy piece of aluminium. You cut it out, the whole thing is polished down, and then what you have is something which you then form the plastic onto. So it starts as a flat sheet, and then it's sucked down via vacuum, heated at the same time, and then that's your vacuum form part, which is what you see here. But you have to start off with this equal grid. You form it, and it comes out all distorted. Then you use that to try and guess how the artwork is going to go and be. And it just, we must have gone through 9 different prototyping processes to do it. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars at a time. It was a very expensive process to get to this point here as well. And the other problem is that when you heat the plastic, you have uneven thicknesses. And so you try to use Bacardi red and illuminate it, and it becomes Bacardi pink, which they weren't particularly happy about. So a lot of trial and error involved in there. We use standard pinball plungers on this. It's a 2-player game where you start off with 8 balls, I believe it is each, and you have to get 5 balls into the other person's winner's circle on the other side. And when you do, you shout out "Cuba Libre" at the end. You get given lots of Bacardi drinks as a reward, I believe. So these things have been all around the world, and I said we've been asked to, if we could make some again, so we decided we'll do a limited run of 100 units. We're going to do them slightly different to the other ones. We're going to do them in, everything's going to be powder coated black, really nice sort of gloss powder coat black. We try to keep the price down as low as possible, and so if the interest is there, we'll make them. We're only going to make 100 of these things. They'll all be numbered and have a plaque, and they'll all be, say, black powder coated parts. They'll come with batteries, and so or you can plug it into the mains and use it, and it's, I suppose, a bit of a novelty type game. We're not planning on making any more than 100, so it's just 1 to 100, and we'll be selling it at $2,400 there, plus taxes and shipping within the USA. So that's one of the announcements, that within the next week we'll be selling these for pre-orders on our website. And as with our standard terms of practice, with this we'll be having a fully refundable deposit of just $500. Then we don't ask for a single penny more, a single cent more, until we're actually making the games there. So exposure is at a minimum, but it's a fully refundable deposit, as with all of our games, up until the point of production. So, I'm sure a few of you may have heard that we have... No! Sorry, power's gone. This is going to be slightly anticlimactic, and I hope everybody isn't here because they're hoping we're going to give away loads of information, because I honestly wish I could here at this point, and I'm going to explain why we can't. Because we're working, I'm sure many of you heard, there have been problems and issues with other companies and games that they were looking to manufacture. We had a license with 20th Century Fox from a very early point. The reason why I went for Alien, to be quite frank, and this is not me trying to spin you a yarn, is that Alien is my favourite film of all time. I'm an Alien purist at heart. I adore everything in the Alien franchise and everything in the Prometheus franchise. And the fact that there's Alien 5 and Prometheus 2 coming out soon is a reason in itself to live, isn't it? I mean, they're just going to be amazing films. But I had to go for this film because, you know, if you have something so rich with material in it, the atmosphere and everything you can create with a modern pinball machine, it was just like, for me, a holy grail, and we had to go for it. But, you know, we're dealing here with somebody else's intellectual property. You know, 20th Century Fox, this is arguably, you know, their biggest asset. We've come along and got it. Now, I'm sure most of you know there was nearly an Alien pin in the past. Well, there was an unofficial Alien pin with Space Invaders. Then Barry, bizarrely enough, almost had, it was Alien 3 at the time, which obviously became Bram Stoker's Dracula when they had all of the production problems with the films. So there's never been an official Alien product. Alien pinball machine, and we have that there, and we're determined to make this the best possible game. But, you know, with any licensor, and, you know, there have been stories with some games that Stern have done recently, you know, it's a minefield when you're dealing with licensed products because, you know, everything has to be checked, has to be confirmed, approved by all manners of people. And if they think it's slightly off base or something the way they don't want their license portrayed, then it's a no-go. So it is a minefield, but it's worth it. It's worth going through the processes. And, you know, we've had fights and battles to get stuff that we wanted. But we're determined to make this the best game possible and to have it as atmospheric as possible. And so although I don't really have anything tangible to show you, the reason why is because, and I was sort of begging Fox on Friday, please let me show these guys something, let me show some artwork. Let me, you know, because everybody wants to go and see this and I want to show it. But, you know, their opinion is they want to wait till this is a nearly finished game. And I guess what you have to understand as well is there's a few political things going on at Fox because, you know, there was a game that was nearly a game which isn't a game. That was a 20th Century Fox product. And, you know, we're dealing, even though we're in the UK and we're dealing with UK office, everything from the UK office goes to LA and LA approves everything. So the fact that they're asking us to wait until we've got a nearly finished product before we start showing everything to you guys, I guess is not, you know, there's no surprise really. So even though we're frustrated and you're frustrated and we'd love to be able to show you sort of stuff, we simply can't. You know, why would I go and jeopardise our game by showing something early and getting into trouble with my licensor? We get on really great with them. We've got a great relationship with them. And we've already spoken about doing other titles together in the future as well. And they're very understanding. So, yeah, we have a great relationship. The only thing I am going to show you very briefly now, and it may or may not be related to Alien, I'll let you decide, is something that came out of our R&D test department. But essentially, you know, we've got a great opportunity to do something really special with this game. So, I mean, how many people in this room are Alien fans, for example? Pretty much everybody, okay. I mean, you know, one of the best parts of Alien, for example, with me, was the whole, you know, evac from the Nostromo. You know, you've got flashing beacons everywhere, smoke everywhere, you've got Mother blaring in the background, you've got the countdown on the self-destruct system, and we're going to bring all of that into our game. You know, we're going to have beacons on top. We're going to have an add-on mod where you can have smoke coming out from underneath your machine, connecting it to a smoke controller. We're going to have, and this again comes back to our LEDs, pulsing lights. Imagine that, all amber pulsing lights, Mother in the background there, the beacons going, the smoke everywhere. You know, we just got this fantastic opportunity to do something really special with this. So, is it taking more time than we would wish? Yes. Are we frustrated because we can't show you stuff? Yes, we are. But, you know, you can rest assured that it's not just me, it's other people within the company who are massive Alien fans too, and we're going to do everything we can to make this as special as possible. So I apologise we can't share anything more at the moment, but I hope you all understand why. And really, last bit of news we've got is we're bringing distributors all the time. I mean, literally, I get inquiries on a daily basis to the point where it's hard to actually keep up with inquiries about this. And we've got people coming in, we've got inquiries at the moment from South America, other countries in Europe, and really all around the world. We've even got there's a prestigious hotel somewhere in the outskirts of Thailand who wants games as well. So it's quite amazing. But Nitro Amusements are our official Canadian distributor, and I think I'd probably show you this just before my battery dies on my laptop. But he's recorded the message he wanted us to share with all of you.
too late.
Right, I shall just bear with me a second, please.
Hi Andrew and everybody out at Pintastic in New England. Looks like a great weekend out there. I've been following some of the feeds and reading some of the threads, and the organizers should be very proud of themselves. Anyway, I'm here from Nitro Amusements in British Columbia and happy to announce that we're the official distributor for Heighway Pinball in Canada. We're very excited to work with Andrew and team. They've shown their forward thinking from the very beginning with their modular design concept, and I truly believe it's going to change the landscape of pinball for the better. Because there's not a company right now on the market that or in the market that can compete with Heighway when it comes to features versus cost, and that's a good thing for pinball, and it's a good thing for all of us pinheads around the world. So congratulations, Andrew. Congratulations, Heighway, and everybody that's been involved. Have a great weekend out there. I can't wait for our first shipment to arrive, so we're excited about that. And anyway, have a great weekend, you guys. Just wanted to get that in and be happy for Andrew and what the team has done out there. I'm going to go back to listening to my new favorite band, Redline. It's featured on the Full Throttle release.
Funny enough, the video arrived, I was expecting since yesterday, and Tommy had problems sending it through, and it arrived about 15 minutes before the presentation was due to start, and it was upside down, completely upside down. So Tommy was on his head up until about 2 minutes before I walked in here. So that kind of concludes really what we wanted to say. I mean, you know, we feel we're in a very exciting place at the moment. You know, we've just started manufacturing games. We're looking now to upscale over the coming months. You know, we continue at a very fast rate with Alien development and our other games. And really, you know, we're very pleased to be here. So, you know, open the floor to any questions that anybody may have.
Up here for questions. Jared, do you have any coming in online?
Yeah, we do.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Let's see what we got. So one question is, how far along is the code on Full Throttle?
Full Throttle is in a place at the moment where we're very happy with the code in its current state. I mean, it gets to a point when you have to hand the games over to other people, as in your paying customers. So we can develop it up to a certain point, but customers will always find things that maybe this might be better, or maybe there's a bug with this or that or the other. So we're happy shipping out games with the code where it's at the moment. We have a few little technical tweaks here and there to do, but on the whole, you know, the worst problem that happens at the moment is you just switch the game on and off, you know, after maybe 40 or 50 games, and the game's fully working again straight after. There's the odd little minor glitch that we're fixing up at the moment, but code-wise, we're happy where it is. But you know, we're going to keep going and developing the code as needed and as feedback comes from our customers.
That sounds like what we call 99%. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Next online question.
Are there any things that you love from the United States that you can't get in the UK?
Absolutely. I'm mad for Cheetos, I have to say. Cheetos, Frito-Lays, and Hershey's chocolate. You can get Hershey's chocolate over in the UK, but they make it in the UK and it tastes nothing the same. So it's actually it was quite a good gig actually, because I've got this massive suitcase that I brought over, and things I had to bring over, the big banners that you see next to our game there. So it was completely filled up with these, and of course now they stay with the games, and I have half an empty suitcase.
And the shipping containers in the future.
Yeah, that's right.
Roland?
Yeah, full bottle drinks, yes.
Did he really say that there was going to be smoke coming out of the bottom of Alien Pinball as a modular attachment? Are you serious?
Yeah, Roman's working on a program now to lock all the transistors on our boards at a given moment. Yes, we're working on a smoke machine modification. We're talking with a few people within industry as well. So the idea being that at certain points, you know, you trigger smoke, and the smoke comes out of the smoke machine. So we won't be selling the smoke machines per se ourselves directly, but we will sell the control boards. So basically you'll just buy a smoke machine from any reputable smoke machine provider and connect it up, and away you go.
Epic.
Sorry?
Epic.
Anyone in the room, just,
David?
Andrew, got a question for you. If you ship full throttle and you have a feedback from your owners of your games, and they say, oh, there could be one or two things that might be tweaked in the code or anything like that, will you guys have a forum where you can listen to what the customers have to say, and will you take that into account and update the games?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, actually, we already have our own forum on our website, and we've already had a lot of feedback on our game and the way we're doing things on our own forum. So, yeah, anybody, don't hesitate to come on our forum and talk with us.
That's great.
And we look at other forums too. I mean, we're very active on Pinside, for example, and it's certain things that have been said on Pinside, like early artwork that we had, which needed to be changed. And it was down to hearing feedback from, people outside of pinball, Pinside, but also people on Pinside too. We really respect people on the community there, because nobody's more passionate about pinball than people who are on internet forums. And Pinside, we think, is a very good representation of global opinion.
okay?
If I was to order Full Throttle today, when would I expect to receive it?
We've been asked this quite a few times over the last few days, and we're looking around the sort of end of September for delivery, start of October for our second run of games. We've already got, with parts, again, this comes down to sort of upscaling from your business, is that, yes, we've just made 20 games, but we have a lot of parts in our factory for 100 plus games at the moment, because, with economies of scale, often you can't just go to a supplier and say, I want 10 of this or 20 of this, Either they laugh at you, or they say, sure, we'll make it. It'll be like 3 times the price you're expecting. So with certain things, especially stuff from China, like a lot of our electronics are made over in China, and our wiring harnesses, is that, we have stuff for 100 plus games in stock. So it'll make it a lot easier to do further runs of games, because we already have the stock.
So I have one for you. Did you check into the history of the original Atari pinballs in investigating these magnetic switches for replacing the mechanical type switches? Because they started out that way and you dropped it.
Well, I know of, not specifically Atari, I'll be honest, but I know of magnetic induction switches, ones that WMS use with the likes of eddy sensors and so on, and the kind of switches that Dave Therese and Sega were using, like on Apollo 13 and so on. So we are au fait with switch technology, not specifically with Atari, but we investigated. We started off actually with capacitive sensors before we went down the inductive route, but capacitive sensors just weren't up to the job, which is why we changed over to inductive.
Earlier you said about interactive backbox lighting. Is there any chance of that tying in with the lit side panels?
We've discussed the point of having addressable LEDs, or at least different colours of LED strips in the sides of games as well, into the side panels. We haven't come to a conclusion about that yet, but it's something we're certainly looking into.
About the back box, so from now on, the full throttle will be fitted with those RGB LEDs in the back box. The side panels will stay white for the time being for full throttle.
Since you're also the producer and distributor of the games, is there going to be a web store for spare parts such as playfields, ramps, and plastics?
Yes, there will be. What you have to remember is now, the Atlantic Ocean doesn't seem to be as big a distance as it did in the past. With the way that global logistics is now, we can get stuff next day over to the USA. So we can send stuff over and it not be long delays anymore. We shipped our full throttles out on Friday, and this is 115 kilo bits of furniture, and they were in JFK on Monday. In a weekend they're already over there, and other parts are even faster. So yes, we can ship stuff over quickly, but we absolutely intend to be holding spare parts in the USA and Canada as well.
Back here?
I find it very interesting. You brought up the point about the machine actually being connected to the internet with Facebook and Instagram, all this other stuff. I personally believe that that's the way to go. Because everybody's got a phone. Everybody interacts with their phone 50,000 times a day.
Absolutely.
How far-fetched is that to actually get something like that done?
Not hard at all. We had one of our guys in our office at the moment, Janos, who's one of our software developers. He's already holding up his smartphone and he's clicking buttons and operating the flippers just with his smartphone, you know, and he's already been developing some software too, which from a competition element, which is connected with the web, so stuff is being done and it's going up to the web already. So this is certainly absolutely not far-fetched at all, and this is something which we would expect on our platform to be in effect at a certain stage within sort of 6 months. But you know, I mean, it goes even further than that too. It allows distributors to be able to tap into machines, or operators, sorry, to tap into machines and find out, are they being switched on? You know, how much money are they taking? Is there a problem? What is the problem? So, you know, a pinball machine should be able to connect back and say what's wrong with it, so you can go, you know, armed with exactly the spare parts to fix it.
And also, you know, you can tie commerce into it too. You know, at that point, you know, you can take plastic.
If you're
Well,
using
that-
NFC, you can use Google Wallet and Apple Pay and have it be your interface to your smartphone profile.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, this is part of the system we want to develop, which is that, you know, you go online, you create your player profile, you've got your photo up there, and then you can pay by WorldPay, by PayPal, or other ways as well. And then, you know, you walk up to the game and you put your smartphone up with your near-field communications, and it says, "Hi, Andrew, you know, would you like to play a game? Would you like to use some of your credits there?" And you play your game, and then...
The question is that, like, you know, this has been talked about before, and like I said, I believe that this is the way to go. It's just a matter of fact, you know, who's going to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
It's
Well, we're actively developing it, and we've tested certain aspects of that as well. So, you know, we're deadly serious about doing this.
Have you considered providing the throttle machine with handlebars on the side of it? Is that the platform?
Handlebars, you mean like motorcycle handlebars? Well, the funny thing is, funny enough, I'm very good friends with Mark Ritchie, and we've spoken about you know, stuff that went on in Capcom in the past, and they were developing a motorcycle game at Capcom before the plug was pulled over there, and I believe part of that was that it was big handlebars on the front of it there, which were controlling the game.
Yeah, Orange County Choppers was the game.
Oh, right.
It was a pinball video.
Right. So, no, to answer the original question, we haven't considered it, but, you know, with some of the crazy and the great mods that are out there, who knows, maybe somebody will develop that as an aftermarket thing.
Yeah, so you're set up for modular controls, right? So any mod person, once they know your interface, you publish the interface?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you know, our power driver board in the bottom of the cabinet there has been designed with, you know, the toppers in mind, so you can connect to different aspects of it. How many, what are we allowed for on the toppers? How many LEDs and motors or coils?
On the topper, we have allowed for as many RGB LEDs as you want for light effects, and up to 2 solenoids, I believe, for the topper.
Right, okay. But, you know, I believe we could add an extra one with extra wiring, couldn't we? Because there is still more capacity on the board itself. So the answer is, you know, there's a lot of expandability there.
Just curious, how customizable are you looking for customers to be able to, are you going to support customers wanting to either use the existing system or develop their own driver boards or to add features, accessories, their own games?
It's a good question. I can't really answer that in too much detail at the moment because we don't really have a definitive way forward on that. I mean, we're working with, we have a working group at the moment, which we're just sort of still putting together at the moment, or John is at the back there, where they're going to be actually developing games using our platform. It's not something that we specifically went out to become an open source platform. Does that mean that we wouldn't support people who wanted to do their mods, maybe to change parts of their games? It could be slightly choppy waters, you know, especially when you're dealing with licensed games, because, you know, everybody knows, for example, examples like with Terminator 2 and Star Trek Next Generation, when you had, you know, alternative sound packages out there, maybe ones that the studio wouldn't have wanted you to hear, but they got out, and people, you know, it's like a cult thing, isn't it, in the industry? But, you know, if we were actively seen to be promoting ways to go and do that, it could put us in troubles with licensors. So I don't know. It's certainly possible, but we don't have any official line on that at this point. But we would absolutely work with people about mods, though, because, you know, we know that people love to go dress their games up and have all these cool, wonderful things on there, and I think it's a great community as well. So, you know, we've had requests to have modifications, or for people to do modifications on their games. And yeah, we will be working with people on that basis.
Let's keep going with the online.
What is your goal
for the production run of Full Throttle in terms of units assembled?
That's an interesting question.
As many as possible.
That's directly from our accountant. Yeah, I mean, it's true, as many as possible. I mean, this is not a short-term item. This is going to be a long-term inventory item for us. You know, one of the things I feel very passionate about is breaking into new markets. I mean, I believe, for example, Japan is a market I really want to go after with Full Throttle because they're absolutely bike crazy over there. And if there was ever a title which, you know, should really get Japanese motivated to play pinball, I believe it should be Full Throttle. And so, you know, our ideas are for foreign export games is to have Chinese versions there. You know, if you're going to be selling a minimum of maybe 100 units in a country, then it becomes worth your while to have the playfield in Chinese for a run of games, to have some Chinese actors come in and give some voiceovers there, and to have specific programming for the screen. So if the market is there, we will go and do it. So I'm very keen to go after new and emerging markets, as well as obviously taking care of our current markets and trying to kickstart what I call dormant markets like Europe.
Let's go to the interim question.
Andrew, question for you. Are you going to be set up kind of like, is your goal kind of like, let's say Stern Pinball, where, you know, you're doing Full Throttle right now, you move on to Alien and say there was a demand again for Full Throttle, would you go and produce more units?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, this is what I mean by it being a long-term inventory item. Yeah, we may not make something for 2 or 3 months, but then, you know, we may get, you know, an order for a couple of containers of pins or 100 games, and then we'll start making it again. So absolutely, yeah, we can go back to games like that. I mean, you know, the other aspect of it is when you're dealing with licenses, you know, licenses have a finite amount of time on them. So, you know, if you happen to have a 3-year license, you'd be a fool not to go back and make the games if suddenly there's a surge through. You know, you could have a license for a game, you make it, and then maybe it goes quiet for a year, and then all of a sudden, you know, whatever it is, Alien 5, just use an example, it's just been announced, and everything's, wow, I could have got an Alien pin again, and so you get a rush of orders. So, yeah, absolutely, you know, we'll keep games on the production line, or keep coming back to them as demand dictates.
Let's have one more, all right, one more in-room and one more internet.
Firstly, I'd like to thank my right honorable UK pinball friend for making the trip across the pond and coming and sharing your technology information with us.
Thank you very much, thank you. Believe me, it's our pleasure.
Secondly, I'd like to ask my honorable friend if he's of the opinion that I am of, that he, being from the UK, might be the one that approaches J.K. Rowling and gets that license for the Harry Potter game that has never been made.
It's a very good question, isn't it?
It's not going to happen. Not for a while, anyway.
Is that what you wish for?
You have Fantastic Beasts coming up, which is a prequel of characters with Newt Scamander or whatever else is the magicologist. She has, you know, a new series that is being done now. I think it's for Netflix or whatever else, based on the what is it, the Vacant, whatever, a character that she created under a pseudonym. She's holding very tight to licensing outside of the jelly beans that are out there and some of the other paraphernalia that you can find at the theme parks. So
the video games are all stunning, so.
Absolutely. So
the problem is, though, as well, one other issue is that pinball, to some people, and currently, I have to say, unfortunately, the Gambling Commission in the UK at the moment seem to think that pinball is a gambling device. And some people, and you know, the rumour has it that there are elements there with regards to licensing of that title and other titles that don't want to go down the pinball route because it is seen as antisocial, gambling, however you want to go and see it. That's actually one battle we have at the moment with the Gambling Commission over in the UK, which everybody knows Roger is more than aware of and versed in with all of his battles as well. It's really quite crazy. You have something which comes up and is making a resurgence, and there's always somebody who wants to go and stick their oar in, and the Gambling Commission want to do that. But it's a battle we believe we're going to win.
Okay. One last question.
Okay, I'll have to pick the best one because there's like 5 of them.
Well, you can talk through it at the same time, and I'll try and quick fire answer if you like.
Yeah. Like, is there a timeline on the Bacardi game? Are there any hints about a third title? Has the Aliens Whitewood changed at all? And are you going to make any wrecks for the spare playfields maybe underneath the unit? One question.
Like a yes, maybe.
I guess I asked for that, didn't I? Yeah, I mean, the plan is that the box for our upgrades fits underneath the existing sort of pinball machine, so you can keep your first game upgrade or whatever underneath the game. So absolutely. Aspirate in Whitewood at the moment, we learned what we did from the original Whitewood. We went back to the toys situation. We decided we wanted to do even more with the toys, and just to, I was going to give something away then. We got something really cool happening with the Queen, for example, now, which we've gone and developed. It's sort of a rotating feature where you have an LCD, which is part of an airlock, which shows, get features as you collect them, and then you get the big reveal with the Queen. So, elements like that means that we have to change a lot of things on the playfield and move some stuff around. But we have one, what I suppose we would call our marquee toy, which we've just gone and developed, which when you hear about it, you'll see, it's so obvious you've got to have that on an Alien game, and that's what we've recognised, and we've had to change the playfield around accordingly. So, we've moved some stuff around on the playfield. We've tried to keep some of the core stuff that really worked with the original Whitewood. The next one is, the next version, which we're hoping is as close to the finished version as possible. It's got insert layouts on it as well. We've got placeholders with arts in various places too. And it's virtually ready to be built. In actual fact, when we get back next week, we're expecting to have the playfield cutout files and the files for the metal board guides. We're going to rapid prototype the ramps initially and get some wireforms made and get this built. So it's happening very quickly now on that front.
And we'd get our CNC up and running.
Absolutely, yes. We've got it trained at the moment to do circles and squares, but it's going to be much better than that in the next week or two.
It's asking for a lot more.
Yeah. Was there anything there I missed, or?
They wanted to hear if you could drop a super secret exclusive hint about the third title, and they want to know if they gave you $500 for a party game, when might they expect to get it?
We're looking to do production of that before the end of the year. So at the moment, we're just getting it out there to see if the interest is there. Say it's limited to 100 games. If the interest is there and the order book fills up, then we'll make them before the end of the year. We already have the suppliers for that. We know how to build it, so it's going to be a pretty easy process to go and do. So there's that aspect to it. So, I mean, if let's say the order book fills up in the next 4 weeks, then we'll have them out before Christmas and people can have them in time for Christmas. That's that aspect. And the other one was about, as far as future games goes, what I can tell you is that every license we go for is a very strong license, what we believe is a very strong license. And one thing that I believe in the direction we have with our company is that we're not just going after the same demographics all the time, because people have different tastes and, maybe there should be a game more orientated at families, one that's more orientated at adults. I'm a big believer, for example, that you can be a little bit risque, push the boundaries a little bit. One thing I firmly believe is that adults don't want to be treated as children. A lot of the times, adults want to get together, have some beers, play some pinball, and if there's a bit of risque and a bit of some expletives or whatever, then great. Let's have it as an unlockable function where you can go in there. And we did that on Full Throttle, for example. When we recorded all the voices for that, we had like a 10-minute X-rated segment, which has had every expletive under the sun there. I mean, you think Francisco Valentino insults the players at the moment, you wait to some of the words that he has coming out. You want to be fighting this guy by the end of the game. But it's just had a little bit of fun into it, So we've got that as a feature, which will be, but specifically I have to be PC for 1 minute. It's something which is unlockable with code, so your children can't get into it, but adults can get into it. So this is something that will be appearing. It's actually quite funny in the recording session. I hope I'm not overrunning here, David. It was actually quite funny because the guy doing the voices for Francisco Valentino is my oldest and my best friend, and he's a professional voiceover artist. And he started off as all Italian Francisco Valentino. By the time we were into all of the X-rated stuff, he'd become Tony Montana from Scarface, and it was just this, and he's really good at that. And it was just everybody was in stitches for the whole thing. So I guess these are stories that you hear about over the years, Roger. There's some really fun stuff that happens in the development.
Yep. Well, your excitement is so clear and obvious. Now we do have to call for a break right now because it is prize awarding time. There's going to be some prizes awarded. But on the other hand, your challenge is to make it from here to the door without all these people mobbing you. So.
No, I welcome any questions. Anybody wants to say anything to me?